ID CAMHS journey with children, young people and their families, giving hope by working for and with the child to ensure the best quality of life. The ID CAMHS team is a multidisciplinary therapeutic team who are part of CAMHS. Children and young people with an intellectual disability are 4 to 5 times more likely to have a mental health difficulty than the general child population. We work with children and young people with an intellectual disability who experience mental health and complex behavioural difficulties. We work closely with families, schools and short breaks facilities to achieve a holistic view of the child and the young person's world. There is a need for equal access to services and equity for all children and young people with an intellectual disability who experience mental health and complex behavioural difficulties. Who do we serve?
Hi guys, I'm in my house. This is a special movie by me from McCusker. Special film crew have arrived and all.
We actually got a diagnosis of autism quite late for Ethan. He was starting to find day-to-day things very difficult to deal with. Interactions with people, everything bothered him. And I just couldn't put my finger on what it was I needed to do to make that better. Our daughter was taking the brunt of Ethan's behaviour, pulling her hair, aggression, shouting, not wanting to sleep. Just everything that I tried to help him with, it wasn't helping.
So what do you like about the work that Rachel and Heather do with you?
Dr. Hannah?
They do brilliant jobs and
They do brilliant jobs?
And they make life easier for me. She does work with me and she brings sometimes jigsaw puzzles.
I get up, have my breakfast, brush my teeth, I sneak into the bathroom and do my hair. My mum has me get dressed. She always comes in my room and bends down and puts on my shoes and splint. I would love with her.
He hasn't actually got a diagnosis yet because they're still weaning him off his medication and that. So, but he took a psychotic episode is what they're calling it. Bailey also has cerebral palsy, which affects everyday life, which when Bailey started to get unwell, the doctors were putting it down to, his illness and his other diagnosis and just saying he was a teenager and stuff like that, because he started off being like a teenager. He was slamming doors and was laying in bed and wouldn't get up, and his whole mood had changed, and it started very, very slowly about 2 years previous to being introduced to CAMHS, and we just took it like that until it all came to a head then eventually when it went really bad then.
Okay, I have a daughter who's 16 at home with special needs. She goes to the local special needs school in Lisnella. I always thought she was a happy child and content in herself. And then we hit sort of puberty and it got more behaviour issues, harder to cope with. I think it was sort of hormones, puberty sort of. And then her sleep slowly got worse. Now, she was never great at sleeping, but you would have been up with her because she had asthma. But then she's sort of grown out of the asthma but she was still up constantly every night. She might have been up 5 times, and she'd be talking and talking and talking for hours on end. And she'd be in and out of your bed, and you'd be in, if it's musical beds. So it sort of got to the stage where it got hard. And then that's when I went to my GP to ask for help. I think I'd been to community peds the day before, and I'd got our daddy to come with me. He happened to be off. Where it got to the point that I was sick taking her to hospital appointments, and she'd carry on and pull your hair and hit you and all that. But it was sort of tension seeking. And you think, why do you do this when I do that? Because if I take you anywhere, you're good. But if I take you to a hospital appointment, you play up on me. And the school had no problems with her behaviour. We call her St. Emer. And she was really bad that day. And the community peds suggested referring her to ID CAMHS for the sleep.
He was a full-term baby and everything sort of went really badly wrong in the birth. But since then, Josh has obviously been left with quite a number of problems. His main one would be his cerebral palsy. He's right-sided hemiplegic. He has global delay, he has no speech, he has lots of behavioural problems. He's autistic, and there's probably a lot of other things as well that have never really been diagnosed. So he's had quite a journey and quite a traumatic birth, really.
When he loses his temper, the first thing that you see is this bite to the back of his hand, and then he'll go highly pitched and vocal, and then he comes to attack. And when he comes to attack, he comes to nip first, right? But his face is just, it's like a mask, and then he'll follow up with a bite. CAMHS took over, and we came to Dr. Hannah, and that was the proverbial breath of fresh air. This was a lady who knew far more than me about autism, and was very diligent in everything that she did. And I can't begin to express how relieved I was when the first time I met her. And then I met the staff afterwards. Kira, that's a wonderful lady, very, very dedicated, very knowledgeable. They're on the other end of the phone all the time, right? I have a major incident with Josh, right? And I don't know the reason why. I can phone CAMHS, and Kira Murphy will come out to the house, and she'll check the house situation, right? And she said, right, you're doing everything all right. But prior to that, I don't know. I've got no help. And there is literally no one else. There's no help. You're isolated, you're left by yourself. And it causes, I wouldn't like to think how many marriages have broke down because of autism. You know, because the pressure that looking after an individual like that puts on the relationship. Because there's no help, so people turn on themselves, try to sort it out. They need that calm situation where you've got a psychiatrist who understands your situation, not a GP who maybe knows a little tiny bit. And then you have the nurse practitioners who are basically there hands-on all the time.
And at that stage I was asked, did I know about ID CAMHS? I think Ethan was 6 at the time. I wasn't aware of the service. I was referred to them and actually got an appointment not that long after. And my first visit to CAMHS was to see Dr. Hannah. And for the first time from I had Ethan in my arms, I felt like someone understood Ethan and someone understood Ethan's condition. And that was like someone had me the lottery money. Because to have someone understand what you're trying to vocalise to everybody around you that nobody else gets, and this one person sitting going, well, yeah, I do, and here's what we're going to do to help you, that means everything. After the initial consultation with the doctor, I was told that I would have someone as a point of contact who would come on board and give me advice and support on what was the way forward to help Ethan go smoother. And that's how we ended up with Rachel. And Rachel has supported us over the last few years. She's someone I can contact if I need advice on how to handle a difficult situation. Like he recently changed schools. For a boy like Ethan, that's a big transition. So Rachel she left, he uses a Velcro board, first and then, and if we're preparing him for something he needs additional, you can't just say you're moving school. So Rachel called at the house and left went and took pictures of the school and left the new Velcro thing so it was explanatory to him why this move was taking place and what needed to be done to make that move. Ethan would obsessively talk about vehicles and cars, so if we're having a bad day where you need him to focus on something else or we have to do something else, we can bring this out. And this is how many times, up until 10 he's allowed to have a conversation with us about cars. After that, this goes, every time he talks about it, one goes into the all done. That's because if you talk, sometimes we'll have to talk about other things.
Bailey was introduced to CAMHS about 2 years ago due to him getting very unwell. Bailey, it all came to a head eventually. That's how we got introduced to CAMHS. He thought he was Eminem, who is a rapper. He took on that role, was very convinced he was a rapper. We'd be going into the shop and he'd tell me he had millions of pounds, whilst I was counting my change to do my shopping and that budgeting. He wasn't sleeping. He took a twitch on as well. He was a lot of movements in his hand. He was constantly doing this. His whole appearance changed. It wasn't like him at all. He just looked completely agitated and wasn't the calm self he was. We couldn't let him out. He was very angry. We couldn't let him out, and that all came back on me because he thought I was the worst mother in the world because I wouldn't let him to the park, because he would have been very open with what he was allowed to do. He was allowed to go to the park and stuff like that with his friends, and so he wasn't able to do that because we couldn't trust him. He wasn't safe enough, and he just, that all came on me. That was the first thing he said to Dr. Hannah. It was all my fault.
Who do you see when you come here?
Dr. Hannah. She was great. I felt terrible at the start, and past me once. I felt great. I wasn't sleeping, eating. I wasn't right outside. The doctors helped me to get it through it.
CAMHS service has been useful because it was the first time I felt that somebody got my life and our situation at home. It was the first time somebody showed enthusiasm and hope that they can help this sleep problem. They said, and they told me that Emer was suffering from anxiety, and that was why they were repetitive question and talking and not being able to sleep. Well, I thought she was a happy child and never thought of her suffering from anxiety. Knew she was a bit nervous at times in different situations. So he sort of took a step back and go, right, okay, there's more going on here that you didn't really pick up on, and you thought you used to take her to hospital by and thought, she's just a brat, she's just playing up with me. You didn't realise it was her anxiety and her way of dealing with it all. Hope. They've showed me there is hope and light at the end of the tunnel, and they've been helpful, and I now feel I'm on the road to get all this solved, that life will be easier.
I don't think it would be just as easy today if I didn't have ID CAMHS involvement. I think as Ethan gets older, we're going to meet new challenges that haven't even reared their head yet, and I don't see it as a short-term help. I see it as something that you need to carry on long term, and the fact that it's been very fluid so far, we've kept the same person involved with Ethan, so he's even more comfortable with Rachel coming into our home to work with him. I hope it's not a short-term thing. I hope, you know, as the years go by, they'll be there to support us. Yeah, that's what you need. If Ethan didn't have the involvement of ID CAMHS, he would be more mixed up. I don't think we would still be functioning as a family today. I think his behaviour has settled, so not all the time, but there are times that we've been able to diffuse a situation with Ethan that otherwise wouldn't have been diffused if we hadn't have had the advice and the understanding of why he's maybe behaving in a certain way. He can't change how he is. It's about us changing how we are and understanding his inabilities to do things, and that's where CAMHS makes the difference for Ethan.
I don't know what I would have done without them. The GPs are like they're brilliant, but they don't have the knowledge of what's going on and what you have to deal with. And I think the one thing that Dr. Hannah didn't do was sort of put it down to the cerebral palsy, which everybody else seems to do. You know, this was a completely different aspect of Bailey's life. This wasn't to do with his cerebral palsy or his epilepsy or anything else that was going on. And they did the full works. They worked up, did bloods, did scans. They ruled everything out before they could make a diagnosis. Whereas, you know, everybody else was just putting it down to teenagers or cerebral palsy.
The most useful thing that the service has given me and my family is hope at the end of this tunnel, that they can sort our problems out with Emer's sleep and our stress and our anxiety, and then the family's anxiety and stress levels will all... Nobody has a normal stress-free life, but things would be more livable and workable.
CAMHS are experts in what they do, and led by a lady, Dr. Hannah, who knows autism right through. And you can see the way she leads a team, and the individuals like Kira Murphy, right, who are their job is their life, right? They're far overcommitted, you know, to the job, but that's to our benefit, right? Because we would be lost without them. It would be a lot harder world if it wasn't for that.
The message would be that you'll get through it. It all seems like a black cloud when you start and you don't know what you're dealing with, but you will get through it. But it just seems like it never really happened. We sort of laugh now at what we went through. Not laugh, but it's just so strange. We don't feel like we ever went through it. Especially when we were introduced to ID CAMHS, they were, you know, the process was just brilliant. So it was very slow and controlled, and we were able to be in charge as well. Like, Bailey is allowed to decide whether he wants to reduce his medication and stuff like that, as long as he's, you know, that's okay to do. But yeah, you know, he's in charge as well as I am, so it's great. You get through there.
I think it's brilliant for all the family. I love the fact that it goes into the likes of respite, and it goes into school, and they come into your home. And if you have a problem, we have Kira Murphy who we can phone, and she's always there for advice. And if she can't give us advice there and then, she'll get back to us. And she always sort of tries to have a solution for everything. And I just find it great that it goes into all aspects of his life. I find it a true support, I really do.